5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
ShadowFox.
Yeah. It's only getting more prestigious as we go up, I guess.
Well, silver medal time.
Silver medal, yeah, nice and shiny. I was like, when you were mentioning about a rhythm game or a music game, I was wondering if it might have been one I was about to speak of, because I think you mentioned you were going to play it at some point. I don't know if you got around to
I've played it. I didn't finish it. I only got to level 4, I think. Level 4 or 5?
Yeah.
If it's the one I'm thinking of.
It was the one I think of. It was the one that came out towards the beginning of the year.
And
yes.
Yeah,
by the same company, actually, as Quake.
Yeah, funnily enough, and this is definitely in my honorable mention, so I don't need to obviously talk about this later.
Yeah, it's surprising. You had games that are on this list that might be from that company, considering where else it can get it from. That Game Pass goodness. But yes, it is the smooth beats, the rocking beats of Hi-Fi Rush. Game where I have an affinity for rhythm games. I think like every year there's always one cropping up more or less. There was BPM, bullets per minute.
We definitely enjoyed BPM.
BPM, then Hellraiser,
which I still have yet to play.
Or Hellsinger. And then this year it's a Hi-Fi Rush. So you start off as a regular Joe or a regular guy. He just wants to be a rock and roll star. So he goes in and oops, this Armstrong program, it didn't quite go so well, and now you're a defect and on the run because again we're in the future and it's a little bit corporate-y, and there's one big corporate entity to rule them all, and anything that doesn't fit into their specifications must be destroyed. So you are on the run from the 5 evil board members, shall we say, of and the boss of the company, Vander.
I can't remember the name of the company.
I think it's Vanderfield.
Vanderlei,
yeah.
Vanderlei, so the Vanderlei Corporation, which, as you go through the story, you turn out was a little humble. It was a little humble, out of the back of a van kind of thing. This old, wonderful little lady, she started fixing things up. But the new person in charge, the son, he's a piece of work. He is. It's all about the money with him. And of course, you get all the colourful cast of characters, from the wrestling QA tester lady to the tentacled haired research and development guy who's not actually necessarily He's not so much evil. He's much more curious about you and your abilities. Which
He's
a lot
mad
of people are.
scientist.
I was
He's
going to
mad-
say, tentacled haired wouldn't be the first trope I would have used for that guy. I would just say JoJo inspired.
Yes, JoJo, very JoJo inspired.
I think that's how far. I think that's the last boss I beat.
Yeah, so, and of course you've got your own little friendly cast of characters. You've got Peppermint with her cat 808, who
Oh, I love Peppermint and 808.
I absolutely love.
Really good characters. And then another character that you meet later on as well.
the guy on the
like-
last.
Well, actually, I'm always going to say the last, but the
think it's
guy,
better than last.
the next friend that you see,
Macron.
Macron. Yeah, I always call him Cinnamon. I don't know why. No,
Macron
Cinnamon
food.
is the robot that's also there. He's also
Oh
good.
yeah.
Yes, the robot is cinema. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because he doesn't have any emotes on his face, so he just draws on his face.
He's rapidly wiping his face and drawing on a new emotion every time he gives a speech.
Yeah, so I thought that was great. And then
Also a playable character.
oh yeah, he is. He is. Yeah.
He's a
For a
great
brief second, you get to play as him.
for a great scene. Absolutely great
Yeah.
scene.
I've got that to look forward to then.
Yeah, you got
Oh,
that
yeah.
to look forward to. Sorry for spoiling that.
I don't worry about spoilers. I'd already kind of looked up a lot of it.
And of
No,
course,
I can say, yeah, this was also. I really wanted to add this on my list, but there was just so many good games this year.
This
Really
is
good
my
one.
number 6. This
Ah,
only just got beat out, and the only reason I pushed it out is because, as much as I enjoyed the game, there's something I'm not getting quite right with the rhythm, and I can't quite get the adjustments to make it work.
Yeah,
Unlike,
I'm the same
it-
as well. The combat and rhythm. Granted, it's a really good system of like mixing the two together.
yeah.
But really, you really need to have that, like that Zen kind of like timing to it all to get the most out of it, to be the best, to get the higher rankings and whatnot.
Yeah,
That's the main crux of it. Is that you are ranked on this.
Yeah,
and you're ranked on.
it's DMC meets rhythm game. You start,
Yeah.
you obviously, and you get your style rating, and the better your style, the more the music kind of kicks in. You get some lyrics to, and you get really high up. But the problem is you are really focused on memorizing certain combos for certain
Enemy types. and
enemy
such.
types. So there are times when it's like, oh, here's a simple, strong ground enemy with no fancy mechanics. I can combo, dodge, parry, get some really cool stuff. But then you throw in like a couple of flying enemies as well, and it's like, all right, well, I need to grapple to him. I need to use this combo on him. Oh, to get rid of the shield on this guy, I need to call in that person because you got assists as well. There are times when, like, it's nice when you like, I can juggle 3 balls. You throw me a 4th one, and I start to struggle,
Yeah,
and then
the
sometimes
brain
it'll
just
throw you a
stops,
5th one, and it's like, oh, you end up like prioritizing certain enemies which aren't always the best. So yeah, so sometimes it gets a little convoluted in combat, but when it plays off and you're stringing together all the combos, it's really, really good, really smooth, and it has a lot of accessibility to it as well. You hit like back in like the entire world is pulsing in rhythm. you have 808 following behind you, who's also like giving off key things, and you can hit select or back or whatever, and you get a little bar at the bottom, which is also just giving you like a visual. So there's a lot of feedback to know when you need to be doing things. But yeah, sometimes I still do kind of. It's often the beats where it's like to do a combo. It's like hit, stop, hit, Y, wait, X. Okay, so try to get those up. But it's absolutely.
For me, it's just there's a slight mismatch, and I can't get the edit settings to quite work for me. Whereas stuff like Crypt of the Necrodancer obviously has a syncing mode to help you with that, and that one works. Whereas I couldn't quite get Hi-Fi Rush to work just well enough. Still a great game. I still have enjoyed what I've played so far. I just haven't finished it yet.
It looks great. Like the shell shaded kind of colours work really well to the environment and the characters. It allows them to have a sort of like complex designs, but that aren't too overwhelming. And of course, the music is a lot of fun. I picked up the soundtrack, obviously. I mean, if you're a music game and the soundtrack isn't worth picking up, I think you failed as a music game.
Yeah,
I streamed the whole thing on my channel, twitch.tv/TurboDrive Live, plug. I did that when it first came out, and I played it on streamer mode. And I actually loved the original soundtrack that they had for that streamer mode.
I actually decided to play the entire game in streamer mode because I'm more interested in the music they've made for the game than the licensed tracks they've acquired. That's the more... It's like,
that's only for the bosses anyway, is the licensed tracks, isn't it?
Effectively, yeah. But I think they might have thrown in a couple of licensed tracks for certain moments.
Fights, yeah.
Or like certain points and levels and stuff like that, possibly. So, but no, I totally like this because you say it's done by Bethesda, but really it's done by Tango Gameworks.
Yeah, it's done by
the guys behind the Evil Within and Evil Within 2, which is a complete 180 to what they've been doing recently. Specifically the director, because the director of this was the director for the DLC for Evil Within 1, the director for Evil Within 2, and then since then he's just been working on this little project for a number of years. And this shadow dropped in February. It basically came out the same day it was revealed.
Yeah.
Yes,
nobody knew, and it just like wow.
But that's good for a game like this because it sticks in your memory, and because it was on Game Pass, people just immediately went, and I'm downloading that to have a try.
Yeah, exactly. Like I say, the Game Pass works really well for it because like I say, it's not like because Bethesda is Microsoft now. It was a great way for it to hit mass market without anyone really thinking about it, and they just went, "Yeah, sure." And that was exactly what I did, and it tickled my musical enjoyment or my rhythm enjoyment straight up. And if it's still on Game Pass, so if you've got it, download it, play it.
I don't think it's ever coming off Game Pass, to be fair.
Yeah, probably not. But
it's a Microsoft
with the But with the partnership with Bethesda now with Microsoft, yeah, it's not going to be coming off of that.
It's considered a first-party title, so...
Yes, absolute winner in my books. Well, not quite winner, but second place at least. But it's still worth it.
Very close.
Very close. Very, very close.
It's still a winner, it just didn't win the gold.
Yeah.
That tends to be a common thing with you, is that your rhythm game of the year is never the first number one game. It's always like the second.
Like I do love my rhythm games, but there's often often the thing is they're quite short, and that being short isn't a bad thing.
Oh,
but
this thing is not short. Believe me, I've looked at it, and it's like there's so much for completion in that game. It's crazy
for a completionist gun, but it's like the games that are often beat it are often games where I spend a little more time with it. Like a rhythm game, it could win, it could be my favourite, but it often is just a little bit. It's just a little bit short.
Yeah. Although the nice thing with a lot of them is we will tend to go back to them just like once in a while, just to have a go.
Oh yeah. What's your silver this year, Turbo?
Well, my silver, kind of like following in the rules of like one remake title per listing, I think. And we try to respect each other's kind of like rules and stuff like that. And I'm respecting Earth's rule of like having one remake on the top 5 for this year. Granted, I wasn't playing many remakes. I was playing a lot of kind of like re-releases or like or new Western releases of games that never came out in the West. Hello, Project Zero made Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. Hi, I mean, but you didn't make it.
Technically, Disgaea 7 would be that because it came out in Japan last year, I believe. So
yeah. So with my entry, it is a full-on blown remake, like full-on reimagining of the entry that was considered the game that changed the industry. It was
I think I may know which one this is.
Yeah, it was an industry-changing game back in the day, and funnily enough, it came out with a game that also like took that game-changing formula and obviously enhanced on it with its own scare. Now, granted, it's not that one I'm talking about of Dead Space, because a lot of people have enjoyed Dead Space this year, but it's the other game that came out this year that a lot of people have been enjoying and re-enjoying.
The Capcom one?
Yes, the Capcom one.
Yeah, I figured.
Being that of Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah.
Well, I was half betting this would be your number 1, actually.
Well, it was a very hard decision between this and my number 1. You could have swapped either or. It was that difficult for me to go either this is my number 1 or this is my number 1. But sadly, I just like it's really difficult to put it down to the final point. It is like millimeters distance between each other of who could be number 1 or number 2. It's that difficult. But I'll talk about number 1 when we get to it. But for now, Resident Evil 4 Remake is a really good remake. They did justice. Now, initially, in its initial release, it was unfinished. Because it was missing one aspect of the game that has become kind of like a staple for the game since its multiple ports. But then they rectified that with the DLC for the game that added that missing component from all those other releases that was initial. Now, initially, the first game had the main game, Mercenaries, and another mode called Assignment Ada, which was kind of like a bonus game, whatnot. And it wasn't really canonically tied to the main game, effectively. When the remake came out, it had the main game, and then, at least within the first month, they released a free update of Mercenaries, so you could play the Mercenaries bonus game for that. But they didn't release Assignment Ada. Now, granted, Assignment Ada is forgettable. Nobody remembers Assignment Ada, really, in all honesty. It's there in the original game, but not many people care about it. The mode that they do care about that has Ada in it is Separate Ways. And that is what many people have been enjoying recently since September, I think it was. I think it came out in September.
Was that a paid DLC or was it free?
It was a paid DLC for the remake. But it makes sense because it was only available from the PS2 versions onward. So effectively, you had to pay a whole 40 quid for another mode back in the day. So,
if you wanted it.
If you wanted it. But now, you're only paying 10 quid, or less than 10 quid, to add this mode to your new version of the game. Now, I don't know if they'll ever make a Game of the Year edition of Resident Evil 4, where they'll re-release it and have all the content on one disc.
I almost guarantee you they will.
I mean, they didn't do that for Resident Evil 2 or 3, because, well, actually, no, they didn't do it for Resident Evil 3 because they didn't make any extra single-player content for the third game. But for 2, they didn't do that for 2, because you had the Ghost Survivors DLC, but it was free, so, you know, there's no point in that
for free DLC it's a bit different.
Yeah.
I imagine they'll do a RE4 remake gold like they did with 7 and 8.
Yeah, possibly. I think that might be the case, and they might do that in celebration for the year anniversary of the release. So they'll do like a gold edition in March, possibly. Yeah, but initially, the main game I thought was great, and then Separate Ways added onto it, just as good. In fact, it filled out a lot of the kind of like missing pieces that a lot of people were annoyed about with the original remake, because the original remake had to cut out a couple of things from the game that many people were thinking, oh, where's this and that. It's in Separate Ways. They just trimmed it down from Leon's story and added it into Ada's story, and actually makes Separate Ways in the remake a better version than Separate Ways that you got in the original. Or at least from the PS2 original onwards. Because I always, like, with Separate Ways on the original version, like OG Resident Evil 4, it had so much of the same kind of like level layout and whatnot of the original game, and really didn't change up so much. They had a couple of things here and there that changed up in terms of like level layout and design and stuff like that, and of course to utilize the mechanic of Ada's grapple gun and whatnot. But in the remake, they emphasize it. They emphasize, oh, Ada has this grapple gun. She's got to go into this completely different area that Leon has no access to whatsoever. You know, and you'll be able to find so many different things and whatnot. They definitely did a really good job with this remake. Now, granted, obviously, in terms of story-wise, that's the main problem. That's the key factor of why this is going down to second rather than first.
Oh,
the story is pretty much the same. Like, there is certain moments that changes up the story, but the main story, from beginning to end, is pretty much the same thing. Like, the key points are like that of the original. So I knew what was going to happen, except for maybe like one last thing, and that was definitely, especially in Separate Ways, where they have a very good teaser for what happens after the events of Resident Evil 4 Remake now, and how they go about afterwards now of the story between, I don't know if you guys know the lore of Resident Evil in general.
Not in the slightest,
vaguely.
honestly. I know little bits of some I don't know, there's less Plagueis and other stuff later on.
Yeah, I mean, the events of what happens in 4 does kind of like turn into Resident Evil, goes into Resident Evil 5, and they do kind of like connect it a bit more, and they do hint at them working on a remake of Resident Evil 5 if they want to do a Resident Evil 5. Now, granted, me myself, I would have liked a remake of Resident Evil Code Veronica first. Before that. In fact, I wanted that to happen before Resident Evil 4, but we never got that. Because they wanted to work on the numbered entries more so than anything else. Even though Code Veronica is a key factor in the story threads of the universe of Resident Evil and whatnot. But nevertheless, they did a really good job at doing the main doing this remake of Resident Evil 4. Would have I liked to had the game complete initially, like have everything in rather than having said, yeah, it would have been nice. I would have paid for the extra, or actually no, I would have liked them to wait until later this year to have a complete product. Like, so instead of the game launching in March with just the main game and Mercenaries, have the main game, Mercenaries, and separate ways all released in September, and there you go, you would have had a complete package. But really, it's fine. It's fine how it was.
I was going to say, is it that much of a detractor? Because actually I think that might have been a better way of doing it, because it means they've got the time between the two to add in like bug fixes and stuff from the base game to make sure it doesn't affect separate ways. That's probably just me working on a developer mindset.
Yeah, I think it could have been done better that way, yeah, but I feel as though because they released the Separate Ways DLC as quite a minimal kind of thing, like less than a tenner for it, and granted, I'd rather pay less than a tenner than buying a whole new version of the game at full price, like it was back in the day. So
yeah, I think the other thing is maybe they could have released Mercenaries a little bit later on, so you had something to do between the two. But
yeah, well, I mean, granted, no, having Mercenaries out within the month of release was fine, because the thing with Mercenaries is that you can keep replaying those stages with those characters multiple times and try to get your score and stuff like that. So there's always replayability with that. Yeah. But no, with Separate Ways, they did release more extra free content for Mercenaries because of it. So they added like three more characters. No, 2 extra characters with Mercenaries after Separate Ways, and of course added an extra map as well into Mercenaries. So instead of 4, you got 5 now. Or 5 and 6. I can't remember. I've lost count on the maps. But nevertheless, I still regard. I still have high regard on Resident Evil Remake being a really good remake, and definitely equal to Resident Evil 2. But I feel as though they could have made it a complete, like they should have just waited 6 months or whatever to have Separate Ways ready, and then just release the whole thing as a complete package rather than it being a DLC. But I'll excuse it, and because of how cheap the Separate Ways DLC was compared to how it was handled back in the day, when Capcom just wanted to re-release the game multiple times to make as much money as possible with the game.
Oh, and also, on the other consoles they didn't make money off of.
Yeah. Yeah, if you haven't played it, go play it. If you're a big Resident Evil fan, go give it a shot. And some people even said that Resident Evil 4 remake changed the industry yet again. Now I won't say that. I don't think it's done that, but it's done justice to the original. I'll say that much. But you can play either the original or any of its ports afterwards, and have the remake alongside it as an equal. Yeah, it's gotta play better. It's gotta obviously be better for this generation and stuff like that. But at least it's not gonna overshadow the original or surpass the original, because a lot of people have a lot of good memories of the original. But
now we just need to bug Capcom for Code Veronica remake.
I would love that. I really would love that, but
you're not the only one.
I don't know if they will or not. That's only time will tell.
A recent article I read was basically like, yes, we saw the ending stuff. It's like, it's great, but why are you focusing on this next entry and not doing Code Veronica? We want Code Veronica. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see if it happens. But for now, Resident Evil 4, my number 2. It's well deserved, and to keep to, in respect of your ruling of one remake in the top 5. There you go. There's my remake for this year.
Yeah, this it's always tricky when you have such a extensive remake, because it feels more like it is a brand new game almost. I think RE4 is not quite as much of a complete from the ground rework with nothing to do with the original as maybe Final Fantasy VII remake, which
that was a very
which is changing
style.
the plot, which feels a bit weird. At least RE4 keeps the plot.
Yeah, they changed certain aspects of the plot, but the core skeleton of the plot is there.
That's honestly the best ways. It's like sometimes you look back and you go, that could have been done better.
Certainly with, there's I know for a few games when they're looking at doing remakes and stuff, it's like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be using this slang that was popular at the time. Not so much anymore. But, yeah. I will say that it is a slight concern, actually, of one of a remake that's coming out next year, is how much are they going to change to make it family-friendlier, let's say. Which I don't think you could do for Resident Evil in the first place. So.
Oh, no.
No,
I mean, it's an adult series anyway, so yeah, you can't make it family-friendly, no.
But no, a good pick. I genuinely thought this might be your number 1.
Well, you'll just have to wait until when we get to number 1, what my number 1 is.
I think I might have a guess, but we'll see. On the other hand, my number 2, I very much like you, there's not much between my 1 and 2, to the point where I've actually swapped it twice during our recording already.
So it's back to
it's back to what it was. But I think I've made a decision on why this one's number 2. But this is one I've spoken to great lengths on LMC Cast in the past, as has the Random Genius. I think you can already... ShadowFox should probably already be able to guess which one this is.
Which one of the hints?
That it's one that I've talked about on 2 LMC Casts, and the Random Genius has talked about on LMC Cast.
I mean, your biggest mistake is thinking that I remember anything.
That's fair.
like we listen back to what we record half of the time.
Oh, that's fair. But I will say
times.
One of the reasons this is so high on my list, though, is because I originally saw this game launch and thought, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this game.
It's food related.
Yes, it is food related.
Yeah. So just had to put the pieces together for a second. Hang
on. But I've gone from I'm not sure I like this game to I've 100%ed it, including the stuff that isn't achievement related, and I'm still playing it at least twice a month just to keep up my skills. And that game is Pizza Tower.
Of course.
Now, let's get... Sorry?
Pizza stack. Eat them all.
Well, you don't tend to eat a lot of the pizza in this game. It's making the pizza, or getting the ingredients to make the pizza, I guess. But, yeah, this is a well-designed, speedy platformer taken in the style of Warrior Land 4. And it, unlike a lot of Kickstarter spiritual successors, I feel this one does a much better job of going, hey, this is a game built for us fans of Warrior Land 4 that like speedrunning it and we made it a quick speedrunner game. But we haven't just focused on making it the game that we think everyone wants to do. We have actually made it an accessible game. You don't have to speedrun this game to get to the end of it. You'll have to, be fairly quick, because one of the main gimmicks is as soon as you get to the end of the level, you've got to get back to the start of the level before the timer runs out. But they do a very good job of gently rising that up through the levels. And even once you finish the game, it goes, hey, but you didn't get everything in the game. Why don't you search for the secrets? Why don't you try and get the achievements? And some of the achievements will be like, you do have to be a bit speedrunning. And I think the big change of that comes in the mechanic, which I think you can just call the second lap. So on your way back, if you get back in good enough time, and I think the only method I've done it is if you complete the tutorial level really quick, you automatically unlock all the second lap portals. Otherwise, I think you unlock it for beating the level once. But the idea is, hey, you've gone back to the start of the level. Do you want to try and do it again before the time limit runs out? You don't get any extra time. You have to do it twice in the same time limit, and that includes getting any of the additional things that are only available in the run back. Certain secrets and certain items you can only get in that time. But what's really good is that it builds up from it. It goes, hey, just complete the level, to, hey, try completing the level while getting all of the secrets and items. And then, hey, try completing the level and doing a second lap. and you get that elusive S rank, because you could only get that in the second lap. And then it just kind of goes, you do know there's one rank more for if you can do all of that over again, but in a single combo. And it's just that gentle, do you just want to give it a try? And at any point you can just go, no, this is too much for me. But yeah, I 100% did it because I'm...
Because you're nuts.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
It reminds me in a sense of like Neon White, in that it's like... that was the speedrun platform as well, but 3D,
Yeah.
and it's like, you can just get to the end, but if you then get the gifts, you then also get to level up your relationships and get more story out of that. And if you get the gold medal, you get to make like the extra ending bit. It's like, so it's like you can just go through, but if you really push yourself to get the good score, then you can.
What I quite like with Pizza Tower is this is the thing that I found with a Kickstarter game. If it's a speedrunner, if the people that have been designing it are people that have speedrun the original game, and that's why they love it so much. In a lot of cases, it's when they make their spiritual successor, they almost demand you to also be a speedrunner. Pizza Tower doesn't do that, which is really good. There is a time pressure, but it's not severe enough that it forces you to learn speedrunning tech. That's all there for you to learn if you want to. And I have done one of the unlockable costumes requires you to speedrun the game. There's no achievement for it. I just did it because it was like, this is the only outfit I'm missing. So I did it. And that also made me was like, okay, well there's different categories of speedrunning. You can do any percent or all toppings, etc, etc. But what was really nice with the way the Pizza Tower have done it is they never pressure you into doing it. Yes, if you don't get all the secret items, you don't get the true ending. The other thing that's quite interesting is that you only get one chance to get what's called the final judgment. So when you finish the game, you get a ranking. That ranking is permanently on your save file, regardless of how much post-game stuff you do. But thankfully it's not so strict as to make you, go, hey, you did appallingly, don't bother trying to redo the game. Like, if you go through casually, you'll get either no judgment or, hey, you did okay. The really bad judgments tend to be for people that are purposely trying to get the bad judgments. And that's what I quite like. It's not a pressure, it's a, hey, do you want to try this? So a really good example is the first level, which is quite a short level, and it kind of introduces you to some of the concepts of the game. Has free achievements related to it. They're called chef tasks. One of them is, hey, get a massive combo through the level, and you can only do that by doing a second lap. And by doing that, you will also probably already get the P rank. So it's an organic way of discovering the P rank. And then there's the complete the level in less than 2 minutes, which is just, hey, here's how you complete a level quickly. You ignore all the secrets, you ignore all the toppings, just get from A to B as quick as you can. And it kind of teaches you, hey, you don't have to get absolutely everything, because you'll still probably get an A rank just from doing that. And that's what I like about it, it's just this gentle learning that it gives you. And it kind of nudges you to just... Like, I genuinely didn't think I would P-rank everything. It was just a case of, well, I went through the game. Well, I might as well get all the achievements. Okay, P ranks aren't too hard to get, I'll try and do them a floor at a time because you get an achievement for doing each floor. And eventually I've just done all of them, because why not? I will say one of the other big highlights of the game is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is so good. If you don't ever intend to play the game, give the soundtrack a listen. It's Pizza Time and The Death That I Deserve Aioli are two really good tracks, but the whole soundtrack does a wonderful job. So yeah, feel free to just give that a listen. There are two things that stop this from being my number one. My first one is it's a little bit hard to recommend because unless you're a Wario Land 4 fan and you like fast-paced games, yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I can recommend it to you. If it looks interesting, give it a shot.
You know you're going to like it if you look at it.
Maybe. Well, you say that. I looked at it and didn't think I would enjoy it. So, I think if you've got a passing interest in it, give it a try. Even if that's just you need to pick it up on a deep discount, go for it. I will say also they did a Halloween event which they added a new level, which was quite nice. There are two new levels actually, sorry. They added a new level which was kind of a short racy level where you had to pick up items and just complete a lap. And then they added a kind of level which is completing every secret room in a row, which is an interesting one, but that was a ranked one, so still had to do it. The other thing is, and one of the things that put me off the game was I don't like the art style. Now, I understand that it's supposed to invoke kind of the grungy Nickelodeon style from like Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life. But I didn't like the art style back then either, so I'm not a massive fan of the art. I think the art could have been better. However, I also, kind of realised they were going with something else, and also the graphics are good enough that you can see what you're doing at all times. So take that with a grain of salt. But that's the reason I'm going to keep it at number 2 is I don't like the art style. But yeah, this is one of the games I spent the most time on this year, and I 100%ed it. How can I not put it so high? So yeah, Pizza Tower is my number 2.